Hello everyone, welcome to Answer Outdoors. I'm Justin Hunold, and thank you for allowing me to fuel your outdoor passion. Hey guys and girls, here I am with this pile of tackle in front of me, and I made a post the other day on Instagram about a two-color tackle system. Wouldn't you guys love to be able to trim this down when you're going on a trip, fishing as a co-angler? I mean, this is only a quarter of what I actually have. And these boxes aren't really organized to that point. I'd love to show you my system on how to get this down to a bare minimum and still be an effective angler in whatever situations you encounter. So stick with me, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and welcome to Answer Outdoors. Okay guys, we're about to go over my two-color tackle system. Now I have to be honest, not all the colors are universal to all the baits. So I have just a few examples laid out here. I'm going to break this video down into particular techniques and different, water clarity and such like that. But for right now, I'm going to go over a couple lures that most of us use very often. We have a creature style bait here, a senko style bait here, in particular senkos, two square billed crankbaits, two swim jigs, two chatterbaits, two casting or flipping jigs, and two tube jigs. As you can see, it's mostly power stuff with the exception of the senkos. So let's break it down real quick. Let's start with the tube jigs. It's a little different than the other soft plastics I have on the table. You'll notice with the tube jigs I have a green pumpkin, which you will see throughout this video, and a white. In my tube jig world, I came from up north. I fished at Nida Lake. I grew up there 2 miles from the lake. I dragged a lot of tube jigs in my life and tend to flip them quite a bit still. I know it's not as popular as it used to be, but it's really a great technique. So with that, really my tube jigs, they imitate two different types of forage. And I fish them kind of two different ways for the most part. But if I'm dragging a jig, pretty generally a tube jig, I'm going to be dragging a green pumpkin. And this green pumpkin is a great imitator for crayfish or crawdads, depending on what part of the country you're in, bluegills, and then basically any other sort of dull pattern bait fish. So anything that's going to have a toned down natural hue. The tube jig and green pumpkin with black flake is just a typical great bait for any sort of bottom presentation, dragging presentation, anything like that. On the other hand, in the same vein, there's a lot of shad where we are. So right now I live half a mile from the Delaware River, so there's quite a bit of shad that run up there, stripers and such, a lot of white. There's a lot of white color. There's a lot of white and alewives and other baits, bait fish. So we go with some kind of pearl or white tube, and this is actually a little shorter than that one. That's a flipping jig. This is just a standard tube jig. And in that, I'm using this white to imitate any of those bait fish. And that might be a bottom dragging presentation, where this is more like a bottom hopping presentation, or even a cast and swim back. A weightless tube jig over big weed beds is a really great subtle presentation. It's way underutilized. It's almost like a split shot. It's something I throw on when I really can't get a bite. So this is really killer in that situation. I'm not saying I never drag it. It just tends to be my presentation is more a hopping sort of swimming presentation with this bait. The reason I picked those two colors, well, if I'm throwing a tube, I'm assuming the water clarity is pretty good. So I'm going to want a pretty natural presentation. And into that, we have the green pumpkin, which is basically as natural as it comes. And really, it's a great all-around color. Probably if I had to pick one color for most presentations, it's going to be this color. And then again, in the white, I'm assuming that it's a high visibility, clear water situation, but there's still white bait fish in the world. So that tends to be the other color. I really tone it down with the chartreuse in baits that move slowly. And you'll kind of see a pattern in that. So we're going to set those aside. Actually, let's just do this and get those out of here. Alright, so from the tube jig, or the tube, let's go to basic casting jigs or flipping jigs. It's the same basic bait. So with that, again, we're going to have a green pumpkin. Now, this particular green pumpkin has no blue hue in it. I am a big fan of a slight blue hue in my green pumpkin jigs. Again, if you put me to one color in a jig, it's going to be green pumpkin. There's a thought behind that. I'm going to go over that at the end of this video. But here it is. We have a green pumpkin jig. That's a hand-tied, higher power baits. I get them from my buddy Eric. And this is obviously the perennial, the powerhouse, the go-to, the Denny Brower, the black and blue jig. You put me to two colors. In fact, I only order two colors. Those are the two colors. Reason being, if I'm in a clear water presentation, I can always throw this. If I'm in a dirty water presentation, I can always throw this. And there's just something about black and blue in dirty water, or when power fishing big jigs with big trailers, that black and blue just catches them when nothing else will. Man, this would be a toss-up for me in these two colors. Even in clear water sometimes, that black and blue differentiates from weeds, differentiates from cover a little better, excuse me. But really, I'm going to go with the green pumpkin, and these are both killer jigs. These are hand-tied, so I'm not throwing them at the camera. Alright, let's move on to everybody's closet favorite, the chatterbait. When we're looking at the chatterbait, my two-color system's a little different. So, again, we're going to see a green pumpkin. And that green pumpkin, just, again, with any sort of trailer, if you want to add a little orange, a little blue, you're going to have an awesome shot of imitating a bluegill, sunfish, something like that. Just a great bait. You can run it over weeds. Obviously, we all know the benefits of a chatterbait. They are just killer. But with that, this is where I switch it up. So this is obviously a white and chartreuse chatterbait with a chartreuse head. I have to be honest, I'm not so anal retentive on head color. I probably should be, but I'm just not. On a bait like this, it's moving pretty quick, and I would generally pair this with a white trailer of some sort. I'm going to go with a more natural trailer with probably some sort of orange hue to it, just to imitate that bluegill. But let's face it, in chatterbait world, we're really imitating bait fish most of the time, and I'm going to be throwing this for a reaction bite, so I like that chartreuse. Again, I tend to fish a lot of smallmouth territory. Chatterbait catches smallmouth just like it does largemouth, and I like to have a little bit of pop in this reaction style bait. It's got some flash, it's got some vibration. Let's get a little color in there. So again, I'm going to throw this in super clear water. This would be clear to dirty water. Anything with a little stain to it. Obviously, that vibration helps out a ton. And, you know, in super dirty water, I would probably actually throw this with a chartreuse trailer. But most of the time, I'm going to throw a big-bodied white trailer on this guy and a big-bodied green pumpkin with orange or straight orange trailer in this one. Both, again, awesome lures. And that moves us to another sort of presentation of the same vein. These are swim jigs. Again, these are hand-tied swim jigs. They're tied by my buddy Travis. And we're going basic white. And, big surprise, actually, green pumpkin with orange. So this is basically a bluegill imitation. So you can see my kind of color pattern in these baits. It's going to be very similar to the tube. It's going to be a variation on the chatterbait. And what we're talking about here is getting bites with a more subtle swimming presentation. So again, we're going to imitate that bluegill. And when we imitate the bluegill, I do like to have that orange hue in there. And the beautiful part about jigs and single hooked lures is you can change the trailer to whatever color you'd like. So if you want to throw some blue in there, you can. You want to throw orange in there, you can. You want to throw chartreuse in with this, it might look weird to you, the fish might bite it, you can. So that's really the color pattern on these guys. That being said, we're going to go white, because again, we're going to imitate some bait fish, some alewives, some shad. I might throw like a blackback sort of white and or some sort of, pepper color, gray color trailer on this. And, swim bait, like a Kai tack or something. I know that seems maybe a little off to some folks, maybe right on to others. Twin tail grub. But really I'm going to concentrate on a little grayer hue under this white. I don't want it to be a bam in your face white presentation. But let's face it, most bait fish, the predominant color you're going to pull out of them is white. You can also throw a chartreuse and white on this. oddly enough, when we're trying to imitate shad, a lot of times we are throwing some chartreuse in on that mix. It seems a little odd to us probably because we don't see it as clearly as the fish do, but obviously there's something to it, right? So from there, let's get on to another moving bait. I have two square billy ozuris here, and right there we go. So the thing about crankbaits is if I'm going to diversify and move out into other colors, it's going to be in crankbaits. But in this particular setup, this is pretty close to what I'm going to do most of the time. I mean, if I had to narrow my colors down to a couple colors, it's going to be simply some sort of chartreuse and other color back. Now, a lot of times it'll be blue and chartreuse or green and chartreuse, like a fire tiger, although I don't prefer black on that. It's just my thing, not a fish thing. We all have our things. But this is a black and chartreuse. This is obviously going to be muddy, stained water. Lots of any sort of thing in the way of the fish's view. You know, you get a lot of weeds. We're going to be throwing this bait. And really, if you pin me down, I'm going to be throwing a chartreuse sort of hued square bill or series 3 or any of those baits consistently. Again, I'm looking for a reaction bite on this bait. Where I will change color, I will always start in this hue. Where I will change color is if they're grabbing the back of the hook or something like that. Obviously, we're going to move on from that. Probably the right action, probably the right size, probably the wrong color. So from there, we're going to take a look at, this is, again, a bluegill imitation. But you can go, you know, a shad imitation, a white imitation. I like bluegill because they're predominant around the country. You can find them everywhere. So this is a bluegill imitation of the exact same bait. You know, these are just great. They're grabbing the back of the hook. You feel like you should be getting bites on a crankbait. Everything's matching up, the weather conditions, everything, and you're just not catching them on a chartreuse. I tend to go to the more natural hue afterwards. That's reverse logic of everything else I throw. So I'm going to be honest. I generally start with the natural hue and move out in color from there. But in crankbait case, I generally start with a chartreuse. So speaking of natural hues, we're going to go to maybe my Save Me lure, thing that we all throw the most when we're in the most trouble. Some people might say it's a Ned rig, some people might say it's something else, but over the years we've really come to the conclusion that Gary Yamamoto just minted money when he made these things. And you know, in this particular, it's a green pumpkin with blue flag. Big fan of that green and blue combination, not just because they're my favorite colors. It just tends to be, it gets bit wherever I go. And that could be just a confidence thing, it could be, again, a me thing, it could be a fish thing, but again, a green pumpkin is just a great, great color. So in any sort of stick bait, if I was going to only have two colors, it would be this green pumpkin and any kind of flake you want. You can have, you know, blue or red or black or whatever. I tend to end up more on the blue side for most things. And then this is blue-black laminate. This is a great color in multiple water conditions. Again, if I'm fishing a senko, the water is generally not super stained. And I wacky rig a lot with a jig head. I wacky rig weightless, I Nico rig. I throw it Texas style, I throw it on a punch, I throw it a lot of different ways. If I'm punching or I'm throwing around a lot of grass, and again, I can't buy a bite, I generally switch from that green pumpkin to a black blue laminate. And I will also throw this when I'm trying to, again, differentiate from bottom cover. Black blue laminate catches everything. I've caught spots, I've caught smallies, I've caught largemouth on it. This is just a killer color, and it doesn't have to be Yamamoto Senko. I mean, right here, I have big bite baits. This is actually green pumpkin and blue and red fleck. But, you know, it can be any stick bait. I just think that this is the color combination. If I was put to two, and I'm trying to limit my tackle because I'm a non-boater, or I have a backpack and I'm bank fishing, or I'm in a boat where my buddy just says, don't bring all your shit with you, I want to throw these. And I'm going to have these with me. So black blue laminate for me, and a green pumpkin of some sort. They're just awesome baits. Really, if you stuck me to one and I got to be toting a fairy wand all day, So let's finish it off with a creature style bait. And these are both Reaction Innovation Sweet Beavers. Awesome bait. Great profile on both of these. And this is penetration. So again, it's a black blue. I can throw that as a jig trailer. I can throw it individually. I can throw a punch skirt on it. I can throw a big punch head. I can Texas rig it. I can Carolina rig it. That's how a lot of creature baits actually shined at first. But that's going to be my color in stained water, or if I'm flipping that, black blue jig that I had earlier, I'm going to want to throw this. And I really love some sort of black blue on a bottom presentation. And here we go from there. We're taking a look at throwing this particular color, is Magic Craw. And in the Magic Craw, it is basically a green pumpkin. It's a green pumpkin with ever so slightly a little bit of blue in there. And the reason being the same as these two here, hey man, it's just the baits I catch fish on, and it's my two-color system. So really, if you're breaking me down, I just eliminated half of all my boxes. I might have to carry quite a bit of hooks because I have some soft plastics in there, quite a bit of trailers, and the trailer's going to match some of those colors. And really, I could probably break those down even further. I will go into, I'm a prolific spinnerbait fisherman. I will go into how the spinnerbaits roll, but I really basically break those and topwater also down into two colors. And it really has to go with the profile. So I'm going to continue on with systems. Do me a favor if you found any of this helpful. If you're going to, trim down your tackle after this video for any of your traveling, let me know in the comments down below. But also, mash that subscribe button and stick with me. There's going to be a bunch more coming.